connected Zoom to my Facebook group just recently. So I'm going to see if this works better, which I suspect that it will. It's just loading. That's exciting. All right, so I think we're live, but it's not showing. So it says we're live on Facebook, but I can't see our images. So connected Zoom to. I'm going to see if this works better, which I suspect that it will. Okay, that was probably weird for everyone listening in. I don't know if it's going or not. So funny. Y'all will have to bear with me. Because it's not. All right, so I think we're live. Let me just double check.
Check on my phone.
Yeah, let's check on my phone too. So funny. If anyone can see us if we're live, bear with my technologically challenged self. I think we're live.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited.
There's always something with tech.
You know what? I'm so excited too because the captions are showing up, and I have had a hard time getting the captions to show up. That I'm so happy because I know the captions are so helpful for so many people, and I've been trying to do that on Facebook as well as on Instagram. And you know, my husband's the tech guy, not me.
Are we getting an echo?
Okay. Are we?
I'm not getting one from here. Okay. I put my phone on airplane mode, so I can't look on Facebook. Can you just check to see?
Let me mute my computer then.
Okay. I put my phone on airplane mode, so I can't look on Facebook. Can you?
No echo. I'm not hearing an echo.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if someone comes on live and you hear an echo, let us know. I have my phone pulled up so that I can see any comments.
Excellent.
So let's go ahead and get started because I know we're a couple minutes later than expected, but I want to honor and respect Elizabeth's time, my time, and of course, everyone's time that joins us. So if you come on live, please say hello if you feel so called. And if you come on replay, please do #replay. Let us know you're here, and also offer some support to Elizabeth, who is choosing to share her time and her story and her space with us so courageously and generously. For those who are new to the community or haven't caught an interview before, what we do here is we really want to offer a space. I was just telling Elizabeth this, a space where we can share our stories that are inspiring for our own growth. So we can, as an individual, we can grow, we can heal, we can further develop ourselves, but also because story sharing is so powerful for each of us. And that means that you in the audience, you who is listening, whatever you're going through, something that Elizabeth shares, or even perhaps something that I share, might be so relevant to you and may help you along your journey or inspire you in a way that you didn't expect, or perhaps that you really needed right now. So this is a sharing intended to uplift all of us. Thank you all for being here. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here. We met through the Wellness Universe. Elizabeth and I co-authored a book together last year. And so her story is amazing. Obviously, in the space we have today, we can't go through her entire life story, but we want to share this space with her and be able to learn and feel inspired by all that you've gone through, Elizabeth, because it sounds like you've gone through a lot. Before we go there, though, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are now, what you're doing with your life now, kind of where things are at in your journey right now?
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share and to hopefully to get to know the group a little better. So it's a really sweet concept you've got going here. So I appreciate that. I'm a chronic pain management and stress management specialist, addiction recovery coach, yoga informed, trauma trained addiction recovery coach, and ancestral clearing practitioner. I also write a lot. I'm an author. I wrote The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. Which is really a little bit of my story, but kind of how I healed, the tools I used to heal. I teach on, well, since COVID, I teach online. I teach a trauma informed yoga class every Thursday evening online for an hour and a half. And I teach on I'm also a a PBT Institute coach. And that's the Post Betrayal Transformation Institute.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's a form of chronic pain, but it's all around betrayal. And Dr. Debbie Silber has put together this platform that supports everybody that's had a betrayal experience. And I'm one of the coaches, and I bring in the chronic pain end of it and the trauma. I'm really the yoga. I'm one of the yoga instructors there. The movement practice. We get the issues stuck in the tissues, so the movement helps us bring them out, right?
So true. I love that you said that, Elizabeth. You got the issue stuck in the tissues. Now, we use different language in my circles, but that's so true that the body holds on to all of the emotions that we don't process, right? Which are related to the challenges that I'm sure you're going to share with us today that you've experienced. And a lot of people either don't know that, or it's just too hard to wrap their heads around it. But before we go into kind of like your challenges there, I'm curious, were you always a writer? Was this kind of always the path that you wanted to go in with yoga and writing, or did this kind of happen?
Well, I was taught, I kind of had been a writer for a long time. Mostly I was an editor for a long time, not professionally, but for in a sense, I was an editor professionally. I just didn't get paid for it, but I was editing. I was editing research papers and things like that, and I edited all the blogs on my son's website that he had. My son Maston Kip had the Daily Love years ago, and he had 5 bloggers. I think it was 5 blogs a day, and I was the editor for all that. So anyway, so I had a kind of a background in editing. I don't do editing anymore. I write now, and really I think the upshot of my healing was it actually gave me the freedom of creative expression, because I didn't really have that before.
That expressive piece, right? That's how our emotions are processed. Again, something most people don't know or just can't wrap their heads around. Like, that's so abstract, doesn't make sense. So before we get into the bushes, 2 things. One, this is, because you showed your book, so this is the book we co-authored together. For those that aren't aware, I think I might have shown it before. Elizabeth, when we're done today, please feel free to leave any like links or anything like that that's connects to your work or your books, like leave them below. I'm going to be better at the hashtags. Elizabeth let me know she couldn't find the other interviews, so I need to do more hashtags in here so you all can find everything much easier in the group. So that's that. That's going to be really great for anyone. I mean, anyone. But let's start then. Let's start kind of with where the chronic pain journey began for you, what that was like for you to even begin to label it as what it was, the chronic pain, and what that experience was like for you.
Sure, that the labeling happened a long way into the experience, way into it. But I started under a lot of stress. The delivery was difficult. My mother went into a deep depression, postpartum depression, and left for 9 months. So there was this immediate separation. Also, she didn't know any better, but she smoked and drank during the pregnancy. So I was born and becomes detoxing from all of that. And I was born with a closed pyloric valve. So that's the valve that opens and allows nutrients to come into your stomach. And so and back in those days, they didn't have a NICU and they didn't do surgery for stuff like that. My pediatrician put my mattress on a 45-degree angle, and gravity opened it.
Oh my.
That was like a divinely inspired pediatrician, I feel, right? So what's amazed me at this, where I am in my life now, looking back at my younger self, is that how much resilience I had in the face of all that adversity. Right. So, but that's kind of where it started. And anyway, my mom came back after 9 months but she didn't like babies. So my brother and I have a brother, one brother. We both remember being declared human when we were 4. And before that, we were like, I remember asking myself, what am I, an alien? It's like, right. But it was actually I'm laughing now, but my younger self, hearing that from my mom, I felt shameful for not being older, right? So I was like not accepted for who I was, or I didn't feel accepted. Maybe I had been, but I didn't feel that way. So that right there right there in the first couple of years is just a lot of chronic pain. Let's define chronic pain. Chronic pain is any pain that's felt, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, mental, it doesn't matter. It all sends the same signal to the brain, it hurts. So chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Yeah. So the National Institutes of Health estimate 25% of the North American population across all socioeconomic measures, ages, and all that have chronic pain, including kids. Mm-hmm. And the World Health Organization estimates 1/5 of the world. So chronic pain is a silent epidemic. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so silent because there's so much fear and intensity and addiction and suicide and mental illness that are wrapped up in it. Yeah, it may not be as silent as we think, but it's not recognized as an epidemic yet.
So what did you start to recognize as your own experience of chronic pain? What was happening for you? What was the suffering and pain that you were experiencing?
So what I really remember was having to suppress my emotions. I just was to be seen and not heard. And they didn't want to see me emote in any way. They didn't want joy. They didn't want sadness. They just wanted this quiet. And I picked up on that really early. But I had developed irritable bowel for 2 reasons. One was all this pushing down, which I think my younger self was brilliant at keeping herself safe, but we suffer the consequences. And then the other thing was that I was required to drink 3 glasses of milk a day, and I can't digest the base protein in milk. So it just really upset my gut. But nobody could do anything about it. So I just kind of lived with this, discomfort and pain in my gut for a long time. And it was both of these things. I never knew what it was.
Right.
Until much later. Yeah.
Right. It's like you could feel it though. It was just felt like there's
physically, sure.
Yeah.
And then when I was 14, I fell off a horse and landed on a rock and broke my 5th lumbar. Oh. And and what happened is that the lumbar, that 5th lumbar broke, both sides broke, and the front part slipped forward into my pelvis. I actually got up from that accident. It gives you an idea how much pain I was used to. I figured like, oh, if I can get up and walk, I'm okay. That's how twisted my world was.
My body is hurting thinking about it for you right now.
Oh man. So, well, it was okay. I'm kind of laying the groundwork for what happens with a chronic pain patient, a person, sufferer.
Right. Because it's not a single episode kind of thing. And that's this, for those listening in, if any of this is resonating for you, even if it's not labeled chronic pain, just know that this wadded up in this is trauma. There's epigenetic research. And when she was talking about some of what she experienced as she was developing in the womb, we have epigenetic research that provides information about how you can actually experience in the womb trauma. And so chronic pain is birthed out of trauma. And that's a lot of what Elizabeth is sharing here. So just know that trauma isn't often what people think it is. Oh, I didn't get in this big car accident. Oh, I wasn't raped at this young age. Those things are trauma, of course, but that's not the only definition of
Mm.
trauma. When our body can't process effectively on an ongoing basis, it's responding in it with a traumatic response, and that has
Sure.
impact on us. And this is what Elizabeth is sharing, right? Elizabeth, like some
Mhm.
of these experiences that built up over time
Mhm.
chronically, right? And how your body couldn't process it.
Well, I wasn't given the tools
No.
to learn how to self-regulate.
Mhm.
So, our babies really require, they don't know how to self-regulate. They require an adult to help co-regulate them by holding and looking at them and being present with them to learn to teach them how to regulate their own system. And I didn't have that, right? So trauma, another way of looking at trauma is the inability to self-regulate,
Mm.
right? Or even co-regulate in a healthy way, right? So and you're absolutely right. And I just want to make this point because I think people, I've sat in front of thousands of chronic pain patients and we have certain things in common. It's been so many years that I've been in and out of hospitals and rehab centers and clients and so forth. I said that I had that accident and I got up and I was able to walk, even though I'd broken a major vertebrae, like the most important vertebrae there, that's essential fifth lumbar. It's like a kingpin in the spine. And and I got up and walked away. And now I hurt, but I got up and walked away and I just kept walking. And we never ended up even getting an x-ray. I just, it wasn't, anyway, for years. Now, why is that important? Because it's an example of how someone with chronic pain can be injured and not even know it
Mhm.
because they're used to carrying a load. And so for me, even now, where I've cleared all this chronic pain, even now in my yoga practice or when I go out and exercise, I'm still trying to find the line between, so not enough exercise is entropy, too much is, or sorry, is atrophy, too much is injury. And my issue is not so much atrophy as it is I can't see the injury line.
Yeah.
And this is something that probably a lot of us who have this chronic pain experience have as a thing. Oh, I didn't even realize I'd hurt myself, and then you're hurt, right? So, yeah. And the other thing is, I didn't understand the power of my experiences until much later.
Yeah.
The power that these things had. Does that make sense?
It does. How long were you suffering with this compounding chronic pain effect happening before something shifted, or something came into your awareness of, no, this isn't right, or this isn't
Oh,
what, like this, that there was some kind of shift at some point, right? Where you're like, I want to do something about this. I don't need to keep living this way.
oh well, yeah. The stories. I'll go back a little bit. So I had this injury to the back. I had developed back pain. Um, I managed it for about 7 years and then I couldn't. I went to a chiropractor. They said, oh, you have an old injury. The chiropractor managed me for another 7 years. And then I had to have surgery. And I had 3 surgeries and a couple of follow-up surgeries to stabilize that spine. And by the time we finally got it stable, that vertebrae was 80% slipped into my pelvis and pulled the leg nerves with it. So it was pretty significant. And I spent like 6 years in the 80s in bed and bed rest from all the surgeries and stuff. Here's the thing. The doctor said, and this is the important shift you're looking for. The doctor, now I have a science background. Now I love woo woo and I'm a spiritual person, but I love science. I geek out on science too. So I have the science background. Doctors say to me, you will be in level 7, 10 out of 10 pain for the rest of your life, and you will be in a wheelchair when you're 40. And I was devastated when I heard that because I was like, they're the authority. And I cried. But I was like, I cried for 2 weeks. But during that 2 weeks, I was just like, well, this is my life. I had a like a 2-year-old kid and a new husband and a, you know, a whole life ahead of me. And I'm like, how did this happen? Right. So this can't be my life. I never really accepted that prognosis. I took it in, but I never 100% accepted it. And I finally, after 2 weeks, I had this idea, I had an epiphany, and I was like, oh, he made an error. First of all, he's not a fortune teller. And second of all, he's forgotten what science is. Science is about probabilities, not facts. It's probable that. He should have said, it's probable that. He didn't leave any opening for hope, right? So that was a mistake. The other mistake he made was he forgot where the scientific paradigm lives versus where we heal. So we live in the all that is. Science lives, discusses about, can only comment on the things within the all that is that it can measure, describe, and observe.
Right, right.
It cannot discuss anything beyond that. So science has a limited, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm saying it's limited.
Of course.
So when he gave me that prognosis, he not only didn't leave the window open for hope, he kind of forgot healing happens everywhere. But I knew that because I had this science background. And so that's where I hung my hope, was outside of the science, because all they could do is feed me opiates and benzodiazepines and just try and keep me together until I could find another solution.
That trust in the unknown. I had tears in my eyes while you're talking, because it's like that trust in the unknown is faith. Now, whatever you want to call that faith in science, faith in God, faith in the universe, faith in source, whatever, faith, it's faith and hope. Hope connects to faith, right? This trust in the unknown, this trust that there's that possibility. And Elizabeth, I couldn't make this up. In all of the interviews that we've done so far in the reset, that faith thread, that trust and hope, and that there's got to be more beyond what I'm actually seeing in front of me, beyond what the doctors are telling me. That is the common thread in all of them. And it fits me too. Like in my story too, is to see and trust and believe that there's something outside of what we can actually, measure. Is words I don't even have, you know what I mean, right now, because I'm just so.
It's beyond the mind. So as from a yogic point of view, this is beyond the mind. The mind can only kind of process so much, but we're infinite beings in a finite existence, right? So the mind can only process so much, and really 90% of what you and I are putting out, maybe 95 on my part, is from here down. 5 to 10% of what I'm 10% on the best day ever is coming out of here, right? So really important to understand where you said in the beginning, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's classic book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? He's the one that coined that term. The issues are in the tissues. Yeah.
Oh, did he? Because I know him. I mean, he's big in psychotherapy world. I haven't heard him say that term, but what I will say is, whomever's hearing this, regardless of your background, this might be a big shift for you, because this is not something that we tend to talk about just in like mainstream conversation, like average person to person, but it's really powerful and it's life altering, and how exactly it's going to interact with you in your life will be unique and to you. But there is discussion on a lot of it, and research too in the quantum physics realm, as far as like what Elizabeth is saying, where science is exploring the beyond. But it goes beyond the tangible, measurable in a bit of a different way. And Bessel, who Elizabeth just mentioned, is big in the psychotherapy world. He is a psychotherapist. And he has there you go. He has a lot of controversy because of his perspectives. Not everyone agrees with him. So just know that this isn't this, for some, this is a little bit against the grain, but it's a little bit against the grain because it's new and different. It's evolving. It's us growing. It's us learning. And we are, which research does support as well. If we look into all of the information we've learned about the brain and trauma, it parallels everything that we're talking about too. So I think Elizabeth and I could geek out on this particular part forever. So I'm going to divert us back into your story, Elizabeth, because I don't want to go too much off on a tangent into, so you had this shift that the doctor made a mistake. What then? What then? What was the next?
Well, then it was like, I need to find the answer. And I tried, I need to find another answer. And I tried all kinds of different healing modalities. And finally, but I was still on the medication. And I finally, when at the age of 59 years old, right, that accident started at 14, that first surgery was at 28. So gives you an idea of medication for 32 years. And the last 15 of that was fentanyl and Ativan. So it's powerful stuff. Amazing I'm alive. At the age of 59, I was like, okay, I don't care if I feel pain anymore. I'm not taking this medication anymore. And I couldn't get down off my medications more than about 75%. I just couldn't. I was so sick. And so I went into a pain management program at the Betty Ford Center. Dr. Peter Prescott, who wrote a book, I've got his book here too, Conquer Chronic Pain, a mind and innovative mind-body approach. He's not alive anymore, but this is an awesome book. I teach this book along with my book because they're beautiful set that go together. He had a pain management program, and he detoxed thousands of patients off of this fentanyl, benzo mixture, and alcohol and all kinds of other things. But that was one of the things he did. So I went into his pain management program and detoxed off that stuff, which was intense, but I managed it. I survived it. And then he really understood. He was the first doctor, Toni, that looked at me and wasn't interested in any of my records. He didn't want to look at any of my x-rays or any of that stuff. He's like, who are you? He looked at me as the whole person. And he knew that deep inside of me, this part of me that you see now was in there. He knew it was hidden in there. He just did his best to kind of guide me out of my shell. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
And a lot of it was adversity stuff, and clearing adversity, and I'm still working on that, by the way.
Of course, we're always evolving, right? Always learning, always growing, developing.
But that was a huge shift for me. And I'll tell you another thing. It's going to shock your people, but it's so important. One of the first questions he asked when I got in his pain track room, and there's 20 other people just like me in the room, which was amazing to find that many other people, like us. They called us hickory nut cases other doctors couldn't crack, He said to this room, what are you doing to cause your pain? And I thought to myself, he's got a lot of nerve asking a room full of chronic pain patients that question, Yep. And I was just, because the first time I heard him say that, my response was, dude, those are fighting words. You're looking to get yourself killed by all these patients. And the second thing that went through my mind was, and the other thing he said, what are you doing to contribute to your pain? And he said, don't judge the moment. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not judging anything. I'm just sitting here, trying to listen.
I'm not judging anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like that. Exactly. Right. Attitude, man. And then I put those things together. I was like, oh, he's talking about my pain, judging my pain. And that's what I'm doing to contribute to my pain, is I'm judging it as bad. Yes. Yeah. Pivotal moment, right? Pivotal moment.
And that is gonna feel confusing for, not just people here in the group, but in general, because Elizabeth, what you're talking about and sharing through your story is, we have this very scientific paradigm, and there's definitely a time and a place for it, but we put a lot of focus and effort, like almost like 100% belief in it, and have forgotten then the things that we don't know, the kind of unknown. And there's a lot of things that us humans don't know, right? And so to forget about there being things that we don't know can kind of render us powerless, because if we're limited to only what we do know or what authority or whatever says, then there's so much that we're not even having access to. And when it comes to doctors, so I am a licensed clinician. I'm not here in the capacity here, but what I can say is that as a licensed clinician, there's a lot of liability. There's boxes that we have to stay within due to ethics and health insurance, like all of these different things, right?
The framework that you're working in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just right. And so doctors are the same. There's boxes they have to stay within because of liability, because of the ethics boxes that make things seem like they're all good or all bad or all right or all wrong. But those boxes put us in this place where there's little wiggle room for the gray. This doctor that you're talking about, Elizabeth, who I don't know, so I want to look him up, was courageous enough to step into the gray.
Absolutely.
Despite there being liability, very real liability issues and challenges that can exist out, because that's just where we've been at. So I just want to share that because I think that's an important piece to have. It's not that doctors are typically wanting to be, malicious or wanting to remove people's hope. They're just functioning in the paradigm that they've been taught to function in.
That's correct.
And so to question that takes courage, and you did that, Elizabeth.
Well, yes, thank you. The other thing about that moment was I switched literally in the moment when I was working with Sky from victim over my pain, to my pain, to empowerment over my pain. And I switched from the universe is doing this to me to the universe is coming through me.
Yeah.
Complete paradigm shift. And that right there is enough to shift the chronic pain. Boom. Right there. Now I do they brought in ancestor clearing too as a piece, which was another huge part of clearing the pain. And I brought in a nutritional switch. We found out I have a really sensitive inflammatory response. So we had to tweak my diet to allow for that.
There were layers.
Yeah. It was kind of like we looked at it from a holistic point of view instead of this, oh, she's got this back thing. Here's the thing that the enigma of chronic pain, when you're looking at it from the reductionist viewpoint that Western medicine tends to, you could have 3 people just like me with x-rays that look just like mine, same hardware, everything like that. And you'd see this. One person would have chronic pain all the time. The other person would have chronic pain only when they're stressed. And the third one wouldn't have any pain at all. How do you explain that from the reductionist viewpoint, looking at x-rays and symptoms? You can't. That's why we need this holistic, beyond the science, bringing in, these other aspects, which is why we need to bring in mental health kind of stuff and really upgrade the mental health. My son works in trauma now, and his big message is let's upgrade mental health to help it be trauma informed.
It's so important. It's so important. And so, Elizabeth, you went from, even as a child, pushing down your emotions and feeling the awfulness, but not really knowing what to do about it. And so really increasing your tolerance for stress and pain to the point where like you could just keep bringing it on and holding it and holding it and holding it, but it compounded. And so it affected you, obviously, for decades. And you were told by doctors, just from the framework that they knew with the numbers that they had and the research that they had, that kind of you were stuck in suffering for the rest of your life. And you chose not to accept that.
I did. That's correct.
Right. And when you did that, you ventured elsewhere to look for answers elsewhere. And that sounds like was the path for you towards healing.
And I was persistent. That was the other thing. I really feel, Toni, that I came in with a couple things as part of my package when I came in, right? Was resilience, like amazing resilience. I think that was just built into the genetics for me. My family just gifted me with that. And the other thing was gratitude, because I had this I was always, and that never mattered how crazy my mom was a bipolar kind of alcoholic rager person, and it was just difficult to live with. And it never meant, even as a child, it didn't matter how intense things got at home. Um, I always would say to myself, I have a roof over my head. I've got food in my belly. I've got a warm bed, warm, dry bed to sleep in. I've got hot water to take a shower in. I always did that. That's not something I made up. It just did, like it came with the package. So those were the things that provided momentum
Mhm.
for me to keep going until I found the answer.
Yeah. Oh, and so beautiful. I know we could go on forever. If you were to just leave our audience, whomever comes across your story at any point in time, with like one big takeaway, maybe two if there's a tie, what would you want them to hear through your story, through the pain and suffering that you experienced to what you've learned since then? Like, what is the one, maybe two, like top takeaways you would like them to hear by hearing your story?
So many patients hear that you can't heal from chronic pain. So the first thing is you can heal from chronic pain. Is not a life sentence. And the second thing is the greatest healer lives inside of you. It's not the doctor. They can stitch a wound and set a bone, but they can't tell the body how to heal. So those are really fundamental. And you have to believe more in the power of healing than in the dis-ease that you're experiencing in the body. Those are kind of three things, but that's it. Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
a nice little triad there.
Easier said than done, but so powerful and so important. So powerful and so important. And so lastly, I like to ask everyone, because a major part of the root of this community is, of course, sharing our stories, but it's also the inspiration. So for us to feel inspired internally, but also to share our stories so others can feel inspired. And so with that, I would love to hear from you about someone or something, whether it's someone that you personally know or not, that inspires you, someone or something that really is inspirational to you and to your life.
Well, I'll tell you who just right comes off the bat right away is Shari Elise, who was part of the co-founding of the Wellness Universe. She's not with them anymore. She's kind of off on her own project. Her story, I was a co-editor in her book, and and I'm just trying to remember the name of her book. Is something about joy. Shari Elise. I'll put it in the notes when I'll put it in the chat when we're done. Her story is that she was, and this is I'm not telling anything that's in her book. She was molested at the age of 7. You know, really young, innocent, and then threatened. Don't say anything, right? And then she ended up having to go to court and speak her truth. Which can you imagine that at the age of 7? And it really affected. And of course, she didn't have the tools. The people around her didn't have the tools to process, help her, like the regulation we talked about. Nobody knew any of that stuff. So she went on a journey. And her book, which is, I wish I could remember the name of the book, something about joy. Sorry.
I'll have to tag her when I put this on YouTube. I'll share it with her too, so she
Please do, yeah. Her story was a huge inspiration to me. I can't imagine. I had my own kind of version of abuse, but I didn't have an invasion like that. And I mean, that's a boundary violation that I just never experienced anything like that. And she's another example of resilience, but also great inspiration. She's taken her whole experience and flipped it, and she now inspires others. And I just think that's amazing, right? So I'm one of her greatest fans.
And I think it's her birthday today, or
It is her
yesterday.
birthday. I forgot that. It is her birthday. No
Right?
wonder she's on my mind.
This is such a beautiful birthday gift for her. Yeah, no, I mean, she's a beautiful person, for sure. So I love that you share how inspiring she is for you and for your journey. Well, Elizabeth, it has been a pleasure and an honor for you to be with us today, for me to be able to just be a part of this exchange and this conversation and to hear your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we appreciate it. Any last words you would like to leave our audience with before we come to a close today?
Well, if anybody's interested in getting to know more about me, you can find me at elizabeth-kip.com. But you got to put the hyphen in there because elizabethkip.com is already taken by a photographer. So I had to put a hyphen in there to get the domain.
Oh, so close. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Let's support one another. Check out Elizabeth Kipp, especially if there's something here that really resonates for you or for someone that you know and love. And you think that she would be a good connection for them. So wonderful. I'm going to close this up and end that. Let's